Hey, it's Mazzy, and here is a whack-a-mole number 179. There's 178 of these. Go look in the playlist. And if you have nothing else to do and you want just to see some random pulls, some with guests, some solo, check it out. Check the merch store. Since I don't put commercials, I click that button, no commercials in the middle of my videos, like all those other channels you watch. You're watching and all of a sudden a commercial pops up. I'm not going to get that here, but you can buy a friggin' t-shirt or a mug. Now, you don't have to be this provocative. There's things, it's the music stupid. That would be a nice one for you or you or you or Jimmy or Rachel or Scott or Ichabod, any of you. So check it out. Look the link below. Look the click the thing below. Anyway, five random pulls. Let's check it out. Let's see, there's jazz here. You can't really see, but I am being honest. One. Two. It's hard. Two. Three. Four. And five. Let's see what we got today. All right. Oh, I just hit the button on my air purifier here. This is the Cure's Wish. Now, this is the British repress that came out recently. A lot of people didn't like the American repress. They didn't like the sound of it. I haven't heard that one. This came out in 1980. Was it 82? 92. Yeah, God, 92. I like this record. This, obviously in the middle of the CD era, but my history, I'm not going to tell you much about this, so I'm pivoting here. All right. I remember being in my car in San Francisco, listening to KUSF, which was the cool college radio station. Howie Klein, who would later, actually at that time, he had started 415 Records with Romeo Void and, before that, new wavy stuff. Later, he would become the president of Sire Records. Anyway, and he had this set. He did a bunch of stuff on KUSF, so it wasn't just college students, but it was a great show. And I remember listening to the car, and he was talking about The Cure. The Cure, $10 a ticket. You have to go. You have to buy it now at the I-Beam on Haight Street. And so I remember I went up, picked my friend Brooks up, and we went up and bought tickets at the I-Beam. I believe we bought them at the venue, but we saw that was the first tour of Cure, upstairs Haight Street, across the street, and one block from what is now Amoeba Records on Haight Street. That was at the time Rock and Bowl. It was Park Bowl bowling alley. It became one of the first rock and bowls in the country. Late at night, 10, 11 o'clock till 2 in the morning. They had black lights and they had bands play, and it was rock and bowl. So I just pivoted, but there's The Cure, Robert Smith, that, hair. I saw him twice. After that, I don't know what else to say about this record, so that's all you get today from me. Oh, this is a Maslov edition, of course. I mean, at one point, this record produced by Lou Adler was the biggest selling record of all time at one point, Tapestry, Carole King. Of course, Carole King and Goffin and King wrote amazing songs in the 1960s for the girl groups, for all these wonderful artists, and amazing stuff. Coming back, the song that the Byrds covered later on. But all of a sudden, she does this little piano record. Of course, this is around the same time the singer-songwriter thing was happening. James Taylor overlap, and they both cover, actually. What's the song? Is it It's Too Late? No, that's the big hit here. You Got a Friend. James Taylor recorded it as well. Around the same time, this is 1971, so I can't remember, that was 70, 71. James Taylor, Sweet Baby James. This whole singer-songwriter thing was happening. Elton John from the UK. Obviously, Neil Young was happening. That's in a total different direction, Neil Young. But the singer-songwriter from like 1970 to 73, 4-ish. 73 was huge. This is a really good record. I keep forgetting how great it is. Tapestry again. Ode Records, part of A&M, produced by Lou Lou Adler. Russ Kunkel, James Taylor, Danny Kuchmar, all the people that Mary Clayton's on here too. Wow, I forgot about Mary Clayton's on several tracks here. Wow. Singing background vocals on this record. Amazing. It's got a white soulful thing to it. It is a good record. I just keep forgetting about this record because it's sort of in our consciousness so much and we've heard it so much. So it's easy to dismiss a record like this. But this is a wonderful record. Carole King's Tapestry, 1971. Okay, now we got... I was just listening to a podcast yesterday with PJ Harvey. PJ Harvey, and this is, what's the name of this album? White Chalk. I don't know what else to say about this record. This is from 27. I'm pivoting again because I don't know what to say specifically about this album. PJ Harvey, really comes out of the punk scene, but she plays saxophone. She's a guitar player, and she makes amazing records. She's her own styling. She's her own stylist in terms of musical genres, musical styles. Proto-punk, actually post-punk, not proto. Proto is prior, post is after, post. I always say my favorite album of hers is Let England Shake. It's her most political album. I wish I had chosen that one instead because I could talk more about that record. Fantastic record. And it's one of those records where she really wrote the lyrics first, which is rare with her. She usually writes the music and the lyrics. Kind of at this, it kind of comes, she gets a feel of a beat. But what's great about this whole reissue series, and I went all in on the PJ Harvey, obviously a British artist. They released the proper albums along with demo versions of them, and some of them are so dramatically different. And you really see the working ethics and the working stylistics. I'm saying stylistics in any way I can. It's not really proper. The tenses of my wording here. Anyway, PJ Harvey, fantastic record, and I think all her records are good. All right, this is Duke Ellington and John Coltrane. This is really interesting because I think this was 1963 or 63, I think. I didn't look, but this is 1963. I did look, but I didn't see the date. This is 1963. Duke Ellington, of course, one of the greatest jazz composers of all time. And obviously, at this point, John Coltrane was sort of the younger, working with Ellington, sort of the father figure here and the composer. And obviously, this is the time when, I believe this is around the time he was also playing with Miles, right? Coltrane was playing with Miles. So you got this juxtaposition between the soprano saxophone and the piano playing on this album. This is on Impulse record, and it is a little unique, and it's jarring at times, but it's accessible as well because these two are on whole different planes at this point. So it's really kind of amazing they got together. But it has some standards like In a Sentimental Mood, co-written obviously by Duke Ellington. You got Take the Coltrane, written by Duke Ellington about Coltrane. Big Nick by John Coltrane, another song Stevie by Duke. Billy Strayhorn, who composed a lot with Duke Ellington, wrote My Little Brown Book. And then you got Angelica, Duke, and closing out with The Feeling of Jazz, which is really interesting because it's about Duke Ellington, George Simon, and Bobby Troup. Bobby Troup, producer, arranger, composer in his own right, married to Julie London and produced Julie London records on Liberty Records. And they would both go on to be TV stars in the TV show Emergency, early 1980s, I believe. Produced by Bob Thiel, of course, the engineer on this, Rudy Van Gelder. This is a classic record. This is the Verve, Impulse Verve Acoustic Sound Series. Wonderful sounding recording. I think this is an important record. It's not to everyone's liking, but I quite like this record. So Duke Ellington, two of the greatest jazz artists to walk this planet, definitely. And a somewhat surprising combination, I think. And lastly, okay, well, A Space and Time 10 Years After. Of course, you can't think of 10 Years After and Woodstock without thinking of the scene when someone throws a watermelon on the stage and Alvin Lee picks it up and on his shoulder and walks off. One of the great blues rock guitar players of the British scene in the 1960s, and they don't seem to get their due 10 years after as much as the Yardbirds and Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page and that whole scene. But I would argue, now this is their biggest selling album. This is when they moved to Columbia Records. And of course, the big hit on here is I'd Love to Change the World, which has some of that phase shifting on it. Great, great song. I do love this record. This is actually a recent expanded version that has the original 1971 mix and the 2023 Chris Kimsey mix. So this is a different version. I do have an original Columbia. I did see them at Winterland. It's, I think, around 73 or 74. But I love this band. The records they did on London Records, Durham Records in this country, in the U.S., had a mix of that blues and a little jazzy. Albums like Shh and What just are beautiful albums. Stonehenge. I love this band, and they're a band that doesn't get a lot of due anymore. In the same vein, you don't, rattle off 10 years after. You hear this song on classic rock, and that's about it. But the jams they have on those other records, there's a lot going on there, and there's a wonderful interaction. Alvin Lee's brother was in the band as well. But what a wonderful record. And someone who died too young, I believe he died in the 80s, I think. I may be missing that. But A Space and Time, Columbia Records, 10 years after. And just because you've been so patient with me, we're going to do one more bonus jazz record. Just because. All right, Bill Evans, piano player Bill Evans. Time remembered. This is unissued performances recording at Shelley's Manhole down in Southern California. This is a milestone. Orrin Keep News usually produced a lot of these. Yeah, this is produced by Orrin Keep News. I was right, with notes by Chuck Israels, a great writer and jazz writer here. I mean, you can't even read that. You don't want to read that? But this is a 70s issue. This cover photo was by the late great Jim Marshall, photographer out of San Francisco, who, tempestuous photographer. I've done videos. Search my under the photography playlist. I think I did I've done several videos on Jim Marshall. Knew him for many years. I saw him twice at the around 1980 at the Keystone Corner, and then the next day or a couple of days later down at Bach Dynamite down near Miramar Beach near Half Moon Bay. Jazz artists who played at Keystone during the week would do these at this beach house, like almost free. You put money in, grab a beer out of a refrigerator. So cool seeing him in an intimate setting at that point. And I did see at the Great American Music Hall him and Tony Bennett when they did that first collaboration. So this is unreleased work. I don't know what else to say about it. These were taped in mid-1963 for Riverside. And of course, that was Orrin Keep News' label. And Orrin Keep News was the producer, label head at Riverside, who actually, from a phone call, talked to him for the first time. He was turned on to Bill Evans by a mutual friend, and he signed Bill Evans and recorded his first albums, Orrin Keep News. Great stories I heard for her. Chuck Israels on bass. Okay, that's right. Chuck Israels on bass and Larry Bunker on drums on this. 1963, Shelley's Manhole. It says Hollywood here, but wasn't it down the coast? Did they have a Hollywood option as well? I don't know that. I didn't know that if that's the case. Anyway, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate everything. Check out the merch. Mazzy loves you. Take care.